what we decided to do, and Hisham is in a much better position than me for this, is to read from something that has not yet been published. So you will have heard it here first.
My father is not just a political prisoner, but he vanished in the sense that he was kidnapped, and then we sort of knew where he was, but the Libyan government continues to deny his presence there. And so this novel, my second book, is concerned with the existential reality of living with this inconclusive loss. So I'm not interested in the facts. The facts are all fictional. I've made everything up. But the link to my life is this obsession with, or this desire to meditate over this condition. There are times when my father's absence is as heavy as a child sitting on my chest. Other times I can barely recall the exact features of his face, and must bring out the photographs I keep in an old envelope in the drawer of my bedside table. There has not been a day since his sudden and mysterious vanishing that I have not been searching for him, looking in the most unlikely places. Everything and everyone, existence itself, has become an evocation, a possibility for resemblance. Perhaps this is what is meant by that brief and now almost archaic word, elegy.
My last novel was published in 1999, and that's a sad thing. And it's not sort of a case of writer's block or anything like that. It's sort of running around doing other things, doing things in the world, as it were. But I have been trying to write a book, to write a novel. It's way behind contract. Well, I'll just start. A steel barrier lies across the road. Through the windscreen, a vast clearing stretches ahead. Dazzling, compacted sand, littered with white stones. White heat, white bones. The space seems too wide, too unprotected to cross. A soldier leans into vision. Forbidden, forbidden here. Asya steps out of the car. White heat, white bones, bleached, blinding. She leans back in to take the child. Nar Rabbina al-Aida, our Lord's lit fire. Mada steps out of the car. What is this, she exclaims. Hell? Move, move, it's forbidden to stop here. The soldier bangs on the car. Mada puts on her sunglasses and takes her child from Asya's arms. The car reverses, slides away, the clearing stretches out. Far in the distance, the broad, shallow steps and low colonnade rise hazy and shimmering from the sand. Mada carries Tammy and Asya pushes the empty chair. The heat beats down on them from a white sun in a white sky. Asya stoops to retrieve the sunglasses which Tammy, waking, has pulled off Mada's face and flung to the ground. Mada eases her hair out of Tammy's grip and puts the glasses on again. God, she groans, remind me again why we're here? Because, Asya smiles, you're doing research on weirdo tourism. And your pilgrimage? Mada throws her friend a sidelong glance and Asya shrugs. But in the car, on the way here, as she had held the sleeping child while Mada dozed in her corner, Asya had, in fact, glimpsed for a moment something of why she was here.
While you're writing, do you consider your audience? And is it the Arab world? Is it the Western audience?
I think that for me, I think that that in the act of writing you don't really think of the audience, but the language dictates certain things which could be interpreted in that way. In other words, if you if you're writing the word tea in English, then the image that springs to mind is tea in a cup, perhaps with milk. So that if you're actually writing about tea in a coffee shop in Cairo, then you find yourself writing sort of, black tea in a glass with sugar. So that you're describing it because you're going against what the language is suggesting. So to that extent, but it's an awareness of the language rather than of the audience, because you don't really, there are so many audiences out there, and the relationship really becomes, again, if you're lucky and you've really got an actual thing on the go, the relationship is between you and it, really, during the writing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel very similarly. A writer that I admire greatly and return to, Hemingway, Ernest Hemingway. When he was asked this question, he said, "I write for myself, the woman I love, even if she can't read me." And I think there's a great deal of truth in that, in the sense that writing is a desire to implicate and reveal yourself, or reveal your ideas, or reveal your obsessions in a way that is not self-centered and concerns you. It's got to be a way of reaching out and making something coherent and something pleasurable and I think entertaining. And so you do that to those that you love, not necessarily in particular individuals, but it's actually a question. I'm not sure of its value, but it keeps returning. I'm not sure whether I should just find some sort of medicine against the question, but the question is: can you create art if you don't
have a reader? If
you don't love, if you're completely out of love not with a person, but with humanity. It's a very abstract thing, of course. It's ridiculous. The language is ridiculous because it fails always, which is why it's interesting. But it's there are moments when one can imagine being completely disinterested in humanity and disinterested in connecting with any human being. And I think that it's not possible to create work and to create anything resembling art or engage in any kind of artistic enterprise if you don't feel a kind of love for human yeah.
No, but I think I agree. I think you're right.
I wonder now how different my story would have been were Muna's hands unbeautiful, her fingertips coarse. I still, all of these years later, hear the same childish persistence. I saw her first, which bounced like a devil on my tongue whenever I caught one of Father's claiming gestures, his fingers sinking into her hair, his hand landing on her skirted thigh with the absent-mindedness of a man touching his earlobe in mid-sentence. He had taken to the Western habit of holding hands, kissing, embracing in public, but he could not fool me. Like a bad actor, he seemed unsure of his steps. Whenever he would catch me looking at him, he would look away, and I swear I could see color in his cheeks. A dark tenderness rises in me now as I think how hard he had tried, how I yearn still for an easy sympathy with my father. Our relationship lacked what I have always believed possible, given time and perhaps after I had become a man, after he had seen me become a father. A kind of emotional eloquence and ease. But now the distances that had then governed our interactions and cut a quiet gap between us continue to shape him in my thoughts.
I have a question for Hisham, Matar. I wonder, I agree with you about the artist who, in the attempt of creating, has to keep in mind a certain love for humanity. But within your own experience, where you've been facing a state apparatus that's holding away from you, for all you know, the most important meaning in your life, how do you reconcile the two? How do you reconcile that situation and the emotional states that that situation brings about with this work of the novelist, in terms of a love of humanity? How do you reconcile these two?
It's actually, it's not, if it's anything, it's not a question of doing something, it's a question of not doing something. It seems like the normative state is to be open and gentle with the world, and everything else, such as hate or anger, they take work. They don't happen on their own. You have to work at it.
When I started writing in English and found that I was writing in English, but that's a separate issue. But sort of 79, I guess, 79, 80, and looking at the stories and at the articles that I wrote then, they seem so buoyant, so free, because I hadn't realized that we were actually entering a neo-colonial age, because I thought that we were in a post-colonial age and that everything was sorted, and that there was a level playing field, and that you could sort of, make jokes about your own, about Egypt, say, in English, and that would be fine. And then I sort of, discover what's really happening, and all the sort of underlying stuff, which is now not so underlying anymore, and everything becomes kind of like more weighted and more heavy and more serious, and that really is a problem. It's and I think what it does, I think it makes you very well. You don't want your art, your fiction, to turn into a propaganda thing. That can't be what it's about. At the same time, there's an urgency to deal with issues, and so you turn to journalism, you turn to creating a festival, whatever, and the art gets pushed to one side. And then, of course, you have conversations with people and with yourself, where it is said, and it is true, that if you produce a really good novel, whatever it's about, that in itself is an act of advocacy, even if it's about the moon, because there it is, But that takes time, and meanwhile, flotillas are being bombed, and it's an ongoing problem. All is dark, except the sky scattered with thousands of stars, and the great hall far to his left at the end of the garden, burning with lights and noise, as the court celebrates the inauguration of the commemorative stone describing the battle for Hin Ninsu, and the establishment of His Majesty Mentuhotep Nebhotep Ra as per of the two lands. So what if some grandees objected that Mentuhotep's favorite dog was not only included on the stone, but named? He smiles a little as he sees the Chancellor's face change as he reads the inscription. The problem was not in the dog's being there. No. The dog could be there next to his master. A fine dog it was too. Nothing against the dog, nothing at all. Nothing against any animal. The walls are teeming with them. Look, everywhere. Cattle, fowl, fish, wild beasts. Where would we be if we couldn't draw animals? The walls would be half empty. No, nothing against animals, and certainly nothing against Per-Ah's dog. But to have the dog's name inscribed in formal calligraphy, in the language of the state, on a memorial stone, surely that was not right. Surely it detracted from the dignity of the plaque, and it had never been done before. No, it had never been done before. Well, the name stayed because the Chancellor could not get enough of a constituency to support his opinion, and because there was no time to commission a new stone, even if the Chancellor thought the expense justified, and because Per-Ah was tickled that Kemi would be the first dog to be named in a document of state. So what if it's never been done before? These are new times, modern times, and everyone knows it. Thank you.